process of researching this episode, I learned a lot about birds, an unnecessary amount.
Well, was there like an actual bird that was named like Thunderbird?
No, it's
Did
like
you come across the car.
well, obviously I have to learn about birds, and in the process, I happen to become a bit of a bird nerd. And now here's the other thing: I don't remember a single thing I learned. Welcome to Cryptid Zoo, everyone. This is whatever episode. We're talking about the Thunderbird. We're talking about a big old bird. Honestly, the Thunderbird is one of those cryptids that's so prevalent that it almost breaches through fiction and is almost just straight up acknowledged as a real creature. But we'll delve into that when we get around to it. Fellas, you know anything about the Thunderbird? Any thoughts, opinions?
The
car.
Yeah, the car.
Yeah,
The car.
all anyone knows is the car, but I'm letting you know
It's
right
my
now the
favorite kind of car.
Thunderbird came first. The Thunderbird was around and kicking before cars were even a thing.
Doug, you think the Thunderbird was the original Thanksgiving turkey?
No, not at all.
You think Native Americans hunted this thing down? They were like, yeah, man, turkey, Thanksgiving, let's get it.
Not in the slightest. If there's nothing else that anyone really has to say about the Thunderbird, I can give us a description.
All right, yeah, man, let's get into it.
Okay. The description of the Thunderbird is a little bit smaller than my usual ones, but that's because the Thunderbird's pretty simple. The Thunderbird is described as a massive bird-like creature. Specifically, I want to drive home the size of it, as it's been reported to be having a wingspan of up to 70 feet, which is insanely massive. If you take a bus, like a Greyhound bus, that's about its size.
You said 70 feet?
Yes.
Hold on. Okay, so I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, okay, yeah, so I was correct. The widest bird wingspan that we have currently for existing birds is 12 feet, so 70 feet is insane.
Okay, I was also wrong. It's not the size of a bus. It's the size of 2 buses with 10 feet extra room.
Wow.
Yeah, it's big. Hence why most people are like, oh, but isn't it just a big bird? Give it a second. The creature is said to reside in northern parts of Canada and Alaska, but is also a very infamous US cryptid being spotted all over the country.
That's insane. Okay, so 2 buses, and the biggest thing that we have ever known to exist with the biggest wingspan is, if you guys played Ark, a Quetzal, or Quetzal, I think it's Quetzalcoatlus, something like that, but it's 52 feet in wingspan. So this thing is doubling even the biggest known thing to exist.
And before I do delve into the case files, I do want to acknowledge something about the Thunderbird, and that is that, like you said, the largest known birds, relatively speaking, are albatrosses and condors, which have a wingspan of like 10 feet. So this thing's in its own size category, and in order to understand this thing better, I'm going to jump to the first case file. The earliest dated reports of the Thunderbird come from Native American tribes spanning all across the US, each with very similar sightings of a massive bird-like creature, spanning the length of 2 full-sized war canoes.
Who the fuck is riding a canoe into war? That thing has no cover whatsoever, man.
Yeah, okay, hold on. But you bring up a good point. What is a war canoe? Better yet.
So, what war canoes are is they aren't a way to... you're thinking of them like in terms of battleships. War canoes were ways to move wide, like massive numbers of people across big lakes. So, you get like 40 people, slap them on a war canoe, and you take it all the way across the lake. So, it's more of a transportation type thing. According to myths, the Thunderbird was said to be a god in animal form, giving itself a large imposing presence as opposed to a lesser mammal. It is said that the flapping of its wings is to give off a massive booming sound to scare off animals and humans from its territory, thus earning it the name Thunderbird. So it's not just a cute little nickname, it's got practicality to it.
Okay. Back when names used to mean something.
Yeah.
This is kind of making me think too, like, I know it's a very slim chance, but what are the odds that every single thunder strike that I have heard in my entire life, how many of those could have been a Thunderbird?
It could have been. The idea is that Thunderbirds, despite their size, are relatively they're sort of off the grid, which we'll play into a little bit more later in the case files. But just keep that in mind that this thing is massive and we don't know if it exists, but there's some decent information on it. The Thunderbird is said to prey on large animals such as bears, moose, and even killer whales in northern Canada. It is also said to be incredibly vengeful and malicious, being on record with snatching children in broad daylight to be hauled off and eventually killed. In 1865, a group of cowboys claimed to have shot and killed an enormous bird-like creature, nailing it to a barn and taking a picture next to it. Unfortunately, the photo since then has been lost to time or had been taken by a higher authority. This is one of those things where it's a bit speculatory, but I do want to just sort of point it out that if the Thunderbird does hypothetically exist, and I don't like to go into government rants because there's a lot of wackos that actually just become anti-Semitic. It only makes sense that the only reason it's off our radar for the longest time is because the government is sort of sweeping away hard proof of it. Or alternatively, it could have been lost to time. That is also something that happens very frequently.
What year was the picture taken?
The picture was taken in 1865.
I was more or less wondering about it. You guys know about the movies The Men in Black, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There are actual like theories about people who are like the Men in Black. And when Todd was saying like, oh, you know, what if there's a slight chance that the government's trying to cover it up, I wanted to figure out when the Men in Black theories started popping up, and maybe they could even be the ones covering it up.
Well, I feel like that's always been a theory, especially with humans. We're afraid of the unknown. And so I feel like a massive factor that plays into theories is fear. And so if we don't know what's going on, like there's humans that are controlling things way higher up that we don't know about, I feel like it's a very common theory to pop up. So I feel like like a secret government or a secret team or whatever could be almost as old as the Thunderbird.
The earliest known time of the Men in Black was in like 1947. So
okay, so it's exactly what I was thinking with the cowboy stuff, because you mentioned the cowboys, and specifically what stuck out to me was, you know, when you think of cowboys, you think of rifles, revolvers, things like that. So I kind of just looked up the general consensus of what the common known guns were during the 1860s, and like the most advanced thing that I could see in here was like cannons and Gatling guns, and even then they were like the manual Gatling guns where you had to turn it yourself. Which is insane. So we're talking about this thing that's killing killer whales, and these cowboys came up with these pure lead bullet shooting guns and took this thing down. They are insane.
There were a lot of them, but yeah, you are right. It's wild.
That's still insane, dog. That's a Dark Souls boss. They were playing. They were From Software main characters.
Yeah.
Todd, if you had to, could you give a ballpark of how many shots you think it took to take that thing down?
If I had to guess, considering the firepower of the revolvers back then, maybe 40. Maybe 40 at least.
You think they had a wagon with like a Gatling gun in the back?
No, definitely not.
They were like,
he's getting away. Come on, catch up.
Just because the technology existed didn't mean that they had it. One of the most famous alleged sightings of the Thunderbird took place in 1977 in Lawndale, Illinois. Marlon Lowe was playing outside when a massive pair of birds proceeded to ravage the child, carrying him at least 30 feet away. Marlon's mother soon rushed outside to fend off the birds, sending them back into the sky, never to be seen again. Although the behavior remains consistent surrounding the Thunderbird, neighbors describe the avians no larger than 10 feet, with black layer feathers. While quite larger, it is far from the legend of the Thunderbird, which is said to be 7 times that size. However, it is also worth mentioning that the only large bird that matches the description is a condor, which is a scavenger and rarely hunts prey much larger than a mouse. So, if you really want to crack down on it, probably wasn't a Thunderbird. But it is worth pointing out that that would be extremely odd behavior for a condor.
That would be
Well, of
extremely odd
course.
behavior. Yeah, that unprovoked aggression.
Mm-hmm. I also do want to point out that despite, us having the record of saying that the Thunderbird is 70 feet wide, or whatever, it's got a 7-foot wingspan. It is also possible for the Thunderbird to be slightly smaller than that. I think a general estimate is between 70 to 40-foot wingspan. So keep that in mind going forward. So if I say the Thunderbird was this wide and you're like, that's not 70 feet. It's like, accounts vary.
Well, no, I feel like it's
Pushes up glasses.
We're talking about an organism. Everything grows. Mm-hmm. So at some point, that Thunderbird was probably like 10 feet. Then it gained 20, 30, 40, and so on.
He's got a fair point. I just was finding it a little hard to believe that two birds were struggling to get a 10-year-old up and off the ground in time for the mom to come out and fend him off.
Well, it wasn't enough time. The child got carried 30 feet.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, wait. Yeah, I missed that. I must have missed that.
So she came out just barely in the nick of time. Like sprinting out the door, Dawn dish soap in hand.
You got it. Put the Dawn dish soap joke down. Not here, as I whip out my pistol pointing at your head. Not here.
No, dude. I mean, overall, I guess my closing remark on that case file is crazy, dude. That attacked the child, carried it 30 feet. Mom barely got the child. And, just outside of that, crazy cowboys, man.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy cowboys.
The Thunderbird is, as we mentioned, territorial. And that raises the question, well, then if it's territorial, what is its territory? And generally the consensus is densely wooded areas. And to delve into that, I'm going to present case file 2, where we are going to tackle more Thunderbird sightings and stories, along with one really interesting town report. Despite a long-standing period, sightings still take place as of this very day and age. In January 2018, a woman driving in Alaska spotted a bird spanning the size of the road she was driving on. In May 2013, 2 boys were on a hike in the woods when they were frightened by a massive bird. Turning to locate the source of the disturbance, the 2 saw what they described as a huge black bird perched above them. It is entirely possible that the 2 boys stumbled into the Thunderbird's territory and were then faced with grave peril. The bird took off, snapping a massive branch the size of a bike, sending the boys running back the way they came. We got a hunting grounds for this thing, and I also want to point out that whatever it was able to break off an enormous tree branch.
It was able to break off a branch by flapping its wings.
Yes. So a lot of power when it comes to that.
Man, Thunderbird be going to the Thunder Gym, dog. That's insane.
Getting them Thunder gains.
Getting them Thunder thighs, bro.
Oh.
Let me just say here. If I had a branch thrown at me from a giant bird, I'm not taking that fight. I'm leaving.
Evidently, they did not take that fight. They ran the other way. And to be honest, if they didn't, I think it could have and would have killed them.
Funny enough, I was going to ask, what do you think actually makes the massive, thunder noise when they fly?
That's something we can talk about when we finish case file 2. So bring that back up at the end of it, because that's a whole different discussion. September 25th, 2001. A 19-year-old claimed to have spotted a large winged creature on the outskirts of their town. The claims were dismissed until a loud thunderous crash was heard throughout the town. Many locals left their homes to spot an enormous Thunderbird flying past the town and over the freeway, where locals would describe its appearance as, quote, flags flapping in a thunderstorm, end quote. When researchers questioned about the event, they were quick to point out that mass numbers of birds fly past the city every day, to which many would remark that the unnatural slow flap of its wings and the updraft created by such thrusts, they claimed that it mostly flew by gliding, which is not uncommon for most birds, but the slow rhythmic flaps and the terrible noise created were the stuff of nightmares.
Damn. So this thing flew over city. Dude, we love to hear about mass hysteria. I know it's gonna pop up. Mass hysteria is such a massive thing.
These all were smoking
cryptids.
crack. Get out of my neighborhood.
Yep. There was a scarecrow, and he ran through and he gassed everybody, and everybody saw Thunderbird. That was their worst nightmare.
They
It
were
was one
all
single bird.
afraid of one bird.
Thunderbird.
It was just Batman. It was weird when the Thunderbird jumped on the scarecrow and just started snapping his neck.
Broke his neck, discombobulated him. Then it turned
Hey
around
guys,
and it
Batman doesn't kill.
Inverted his joints.
he laid the meanest kick into this guy's knee, and I just saw his leg like fly off.
I saw his leg vertical.
So I remember you saying something in the beginning where this creature tries to keep a low profile, and granted, with its size, that's going to be quite difficult to do.
More specifically,
But-
it's not that it's trying, but that it just is capable of it.
Well, I mean, while you were saying with that latest case file how researchers believe that this thing glides instead of just strictly flying,
Mm-hmm.
that would give a little bit more credence to that theory.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, shit, man. If you are an animal that creates the sound of thunder every time you flap your wings, you're going to turn some heads no matter where you are.
I mean, it might be every time you flap its wings, but it also
They're
might
gonna be
not
like, "What's
be.
that sexy bird doing there?"
I would assume
Sexy,
it's every
huh?
time it
Wait,
flaps
hold
its
on.
wings because it's...
No, Brendan, don't you dare pass on that. He just called the bird sexy.
So we're going on to active theories.
wait,
I'm going to talk about a couple of these. I want you guys to think about.
We're not
I want
stopping.
you guys to tell me what theories you think are good, bad, whatever, and just your preferred theories. What do you like
I'm
more?
starting to theorize why you called it sexy.
So the first
wanna
theory
know-
is
I
that the Thunderbird is a nature god. As the Native Americans spoke, they described the Thunderbird as a nature god, and I will also regale that across all different Native American tribes, almost all of them have a reference to the Thunderbird, which that is worth
okay.
pointing out in a time where mail wasn't necessarily delivered. Things on the East Coast and West Coast, or I say things, tribes on the East Coast and West Coast had similar accounts of this creature, and as such, it's worth pointing that out. As for the nature god, if you really don't like the idea of deism in this, we could also reform the word god and change it into not necessarily a spirit, but a nature guardian, we'll say, or just integral phantasmal force pertaining to nature. You get the idea.
That is pretty cool. So, for audio listeners, I'm about to send in a picture, another one.
This is our most visual episode.
Yeah, look at this. So this is, I guess, a Native American kind of statue. It's like a statue.
It's a
tower.
totem pole. It's a totem pole.
Totem pole. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
totem pole. I completely forgot the name, but there is many pictures of these, and it's a totem pole with like a bird on the very, very top. And I guess it's like a part of Native American mythology, which is insane. That's really cool.
I mean, that's, worth pointing out. So the next
Very
theory
much so.
is that the Thunderbird is a remnant of a dinosaur of some kind, either being a pterosaur or a Quetzalcoatlus. Got that word right. From the prehistoric times, and just like with the lizardman theory, it somehow survived mass extinction and is existing somewhere.
Well, you do know me. I believe in dinosaurs.
JC does genuinely believe in dinosaurs.
I believe in dinosaurs.
He believes in
crazy.
Do you know that he actually believes that raptors are still alive?
Because I am a raptor. Look how small my arms are.
If the Quetzal was said to have what, JC? You said like what, 55 feet, 50 feet?
Yeah, about 50 feet in measure from the bones that they have.
Now, if this thing is now also inhabiting what, Canada and upper parts of America, you said, Todd, that would throw a little bit more evidence towards it evolving. I mean, after all the years, the Quetzal could have grown bigger. It could have gotten feathers to live with the colder environments.
Yeah, I was gonna say it also
I
could have
think-
adapted to the cold and survived the flash freeze.
Exactly.
The Ice
I think
Age.
that one holds a lot of merit, I feel like.
It's fun. It's a fun one. The next theory is that the Thunderbird is a new species of bird that is undiscovered. So essentially leaning back into whatever I said for the Jersey Devil, that it just is. Specifically, to give a bit more information though, this theory is that the Thunderbird is a new form of bird. And for some reason, I'm tying back into the government thing. I'm sorry, I hate doing this, but I just kind of have to, because it's a fun thing to think about. If, say, hypothetically, the government didn't want people to know about the Thunderbird, when Thunderbirds presumably croak of old age, because nothing's hunting this thing, let's be honest. When the Thunderbird croaks, it leaves behind a skeleton that is then collected, and they reside in, either national parks or densely wooded areas. But the idea is that there's a cleanup and we don't have any bones to sort of fossilize, or they're passed off as Quetzal bones.
I mean, I guess at some point you could probably track a Thunderbird with new age technology by using frequencies that are just out of human hearing. I assume at a distance the thunder would be so low that the human ear couldn't pick it up.
No, the human ear definitely picks it up, but I get your meaning.
I was a little confused there for a second too. I was like, wait a minute, how does that?
How do you mean at a distance?
Thunder?
The Thunderbird can swing with the brown note.
Oh my god, you did not just make a South Park reference.
That's not a South Park reference.
Is it really not? That's the only time I've heard
South Park made the joke, but it's a long running sort of gag, I want to call it. I don't really want to call it a theory, but it's kind of a theory that there is a note that you can play that makes you shit yourself.
I'm going to dedicate my life to figuring out what this note is.
Brendon becomes a music major just to find the brown note.
Okay, so is that the end of the theories?
Well, hold up. I want to say something real quick about that, because I actually read a really interesting article a few days ago. Ooh. There was a sinkhole that opened up, I believe it was in China, where there was like a whole underground like jungle literally revealed inside this sinkhole. So if you're saying like, I mean, what if this Thunderbird just was? What if it just was a species? What if there was like a huge pocket underneath the Earth's crust? Because that sinkhole that opened up in China proves that there are masses of land under what we know of as the surface level. What if it was literally just living under there?
Yeah. So there's a massive sinkhole that happened, and look, there's trees inside here.
There are indeed trees inside this sinkhole.
It is everywhere. There are vines growing on the rocks on the walls. This thing, that's insane. I'm trying to imagine how they got this shot. I assume drones.
I mean, who's to say a species of animal, not even the Thunderbird, but just any species that we haven't seen before, could be living in a sinkhole like that?
Could be. Yeah. And I think talking about that, I should wrap this up with the proof. For those who are new, the proof is our rational explanation to what these cryptids could be. The proof is that the Thunderbird are condors fused with mass hysteria. So in panic, you assume that the condor is bigger than it actually is. And as such, it's like, it's kidnapping the boys. It's like, nope, it's just hungry.
I'm not necessarily leaning towards that, because who is it that said, I can't remember if it was JC or Todd that said that condors aren't necessary. They're scavengers. That is me. They are scavengers.
They are scavengers.
Yeah, they aren't going to go after something that...
Part of my bird research.
Human. I mean, what if they're really hungry? Then they might go after a human, if they haven't eaten anything in a while. But it just seems really odd for me for someone to describe the Thunderbird as having a 70-foot wingspan and then freaking out and then actually being a condor. Like, that is a huge jump in numbers there.
Fellas, out of all these series, which one do you like the best?
Ooh, JC, you're going to have to go first, man. This is a tough one. This is a tough one.
Not very tough for me, as I do believe in dinosaurs. Therefore, that thing is a dinosaur, dog. That thing is a dinosaur. So I spent a majority of my elementary school studying a book on dragons.
Yeah.
I thought dragons were like this most existent creature that like the government was trying to hide. Like I physically thought at some point, I don't know why I said physically, but I quite literally, thought that dragons were a real existent animal at some point and did exist. So like this does fit into that category. Do I still think dragons existed at some
Yes.
point?
Yes, he does.
Not the fire breathing ones, but yes. Not the fire. They don't breathe fire, I don't think. But yes, dragons, yes.
I'm having a really hard time deciding between the dinosaur theory and just it being a species that we just discovered. Todd, can you please go? I'm struggling.
Yeah, of course. I really like. I'm gonna fill in the area where no one's even looking. I kind of like the nature god, but the idea that it is something more powerful than a ordinary animal. I really like that. I think I like the culture surrounding it, and I also like the homage that is paid to it in the form of like totem poles and stories and all that sort of stuff. So I really like the nature god theory.
All right, back to Brendon.
Damn it.
Give an answer right now.
We need a solid answer, and this will define your personality.
The way that Todd just threw that, it was making me start thinking about the nature god theory a little bit more, and I'm thinking like, damn, this thing would be some form of deity, honestly. Like, this thing fucking massive, bro, and to be able to be this big and be this powerful, who's to say it doesn't have some otherworldly abilities? But other than that, I think I'm gonna have to go with the dinosaur. JC, I'm with you on this one, man. I think it is
Lemmings, the lot of you.
Yeah.
One jumps off the cliff, and the rest fold.
I jumped into the sinkhole where the dinosaur was.
Yeah.
JC's like my people. Foo.
Dinosaur. Rawr. All right, you're gonna have to delete that in post. I can't let anybody hear that. But the only reason I don't fully believe that it could be a deity is because this thing got killed by the cowboys.
Even still,
I don't know about you, but like devolved guns.
Well, if it bleeds, it can be killed.
A jungle god.
It wasn't as bad as you think guns were.
Well, I mean, no, they weren't.
They're just not as good as they are now.
Like, the fact that it was killed by a crowd of people with guns back then, even if they weren't all that great or they were better than I expect. Nonetheless, these dudes chased after this thing and managed to keep its aggression long enough to kill it. And so, in my eyes, I don't think a deity or a guardian could necessarily be killed by a gun, but I may be terribly wrong. We'll find out. Maybe one day I'll walk outside, I'll see that thunder dino, and it'll eat me. And
yeah, but that also
like, wow.
depends on your like definition of a god. So it's like, the
main
idea is just that it's a supernatural creature that's more powerful than an average animal behind the nature god thing. It's taking the god thing too literally. With that, I think we can hop straight into our categories. Oh boy.
Got a little excited there.
These should be fun. Not the first one, because it's very simple. I mean, it depends on your definition of fun. Fellas, do you like the Thunderbird? Do you like thunder? Do you like birds? Do you like them together? You like the thunderous bird that looms over us all.
That widowy thing is the coolest bird ever.
It is widowy, the coolest bird ever. It's almost better than a spoon-billed stork.
Do you think the bird widowy hits the gwitty?
Okay.
All right. Anyway, yeah, I like the Thunderbird. The car and the bird dog. I like both of them.
Yeah. Me, I like the Thunderbird for the simple fact of just sort of like the I want to say the events surrounding it, just the idea that it hunts killer whales and bears become nothing to it, and it's just this massive creature it's so cool. It's so cool. I really like it.
Yeah, I don't know. I was gonna say something, but like that is a really just cool concept that this thing just towers over the what's the word I'm looking for, the
apex
triangle,
food chain.
Yeah, the food chain. There you go. This thing is towering over the food chain, dog.
Next, I want us to hop into treasure hunt. This is the segment where I'm going to give these two 3 minutes to go find the most obscure piece of cryptid merchandise. Today's topic is the Thunderbird. If you both pick the same one, you have to buy it. 3 minutes starts now. Go. Fellas, You both have your merchandise. Who wants to go first? Raise your hand.
JC, please go first. Please go first, JC.
Raise your hand.
Alrighty then. I'm gonna fire one out. I highly doubt it's yours. Check it. Bam. Firebird shirt. I think it's really cool. It's got this like really cool like design. I don't even know.
Audio listeners, what we were looking at is this bird with a sort of, I want to say, fiery aesthetic and these very like tribal feathers on it. It looks really cool. It's sort of like it was pulled directly from like Native American drawings.
And it's a cotton t-shirt. Extra points, dog.
I'll give you 2 points for the shirt. 4 points for the design. Well done.
Let's go.
Alrighty, so real quick before I send in what I wanted to send in, this thing is currently on a 50% off sale. It is at $532. That's with 50% off. But what we have here is a Thunderbird crystal skull.
Ooh.
Well, okay, look, we can't count actual Thunderbird artifacts. Look at that. That's you straight. That's stole from the dig site. That's not fair, dog.
I had to fight quite a few FBI agents.
Yeah.
To get this.
That is a, I want to say, I think the head's a bit small, but I mean, it's a pretty big bird skull. It looks pretty neat, very unique, very intuitive. I'll give you 10 points, Brendon. Taking this to the podium, fellas, I'm looking at both of your merchandise, and I think it's almost no contest. I got to give this win to Brendon for his his good thinking. Fellas, you guys are hiking in Pennsylvania. We're just going to stick in Pennsylvania. As you open into this clearing, as you hear this massive something's above you, it's a Thunderbird. What do you do?
I pissed myself.
Oh my god.
I'm being uncontrollably.
JC just starts wetting himself, I guess.
Yo, burb.
I'm gonna play dead because I don't.
You're gonna play dead to a thing that could be a scavenger.
Dude, what do you? How is this thing a scavenger?
It could be a hunter. It could be a scavenger. It's not gonna see a dead body and be like, "Guess I'll pass."
I guess okay. I'm gonna do the only logical thing. I'm going to make a deception check to act like a squirrel.
JC, after wetting himself, he drops down and starts nibbling on an acorn as the Thunderbird swoops in and snatches his head right off his body. Brendon, JC's lifeless body is in front of you. What's your plan?
I reach into JC's pocket and grab his wallet, take whatever money I can out of it.
It's a soaked wallet. The wallet
It is. You are grabbing his piss wallet.
And there is $35 and a gift card to Bennigan's. I'm taking it.
So you're not going to take my Chili's gift card?
Nah, because you and I went to Chili's like last week and you used all of it, so I knew it was empty.
The Thunderbird somehow peers past the fourth wall, hears our conversation, and decides, I'm not doing this, and then leaves, so Brendon lives, I guess.
Brendon returns to Bennigan's with a piss-soaked gift card.
Yeah, the poor server at Bennigan's just looks at Brendon and goes, get out.
Sir, I'm not touching that piss-soaked gift card.
And I'm like, I'm offering you business and you're going to turn me away?
Well, I'm going to hop, skip, and step from encounter over to death battle, fellas. With the current totem pole that we have right now, the Thunderbird's sizing up to a lot of them. And I want to ask you, where do you think he sort of... Where does he meet a wall? Where does he fit in? I personally think he is going to dwarf everything up to the... I'm going to go on a limb. You guys can tell me if you think I'm right or wrong. I think he's going to diff the Dogman, but the Jersey Devil is where we're going to contend a bit.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I was about to say the Jersey Devil is a contestant.
Thunderbird versus the Jersey Devil. What do you think is the outcome? First of all, no one disagrees with the Dogman bit, right? Dogman's dying?
No, low diff.
Yeah,
I mean, the Thunderbird hunted bears. None of us are really complaining.
Let me say this real quick. You brought up a story to us where the Thunderbird was killed, right? The Jersey Devil took a cannonball and grinned.
He glared,
I don't think
but
he actually grinned, but that's what I assume. Yeah, I assume he had a big old smirk on his face when he did that.
I think that's a very good point. Like, irregardless of the 40 gunshots, which I think it's worth pointing out. that it's definitely nothing to scoff at. 40 gunshots is still a lot.
No.
And this is just a rough estimate. This isn't hard fact, but it was taken down by gunfire. I think that is a very good point.
It can move fast in a straight line, but the second the Jersey Devil is gonna, juke it and put a hole through that Thunderbird, which eventually it will, I'm just gonna say Jersey Devil beats it, but high diff.
I'm gonna say mid diff. Maybe not high, but I'm gonna say mid, because the Jersey Devil is definitely capable of violence, and the only thing Thunderbird really has working for it is its wings, is the power within its wings, and also maybe its talons, because like we clarified before, it hunts killer whales. I'm only giving it mid to say that it has the capability to hurt it, but it doesn't really have enough to actually kill it.
I'm giving it,
because if you shoot an orca with a cannon, if you shoot a bear with a cannon, you're gonna damn near kill all of them.
Yeah. The only reason I say high diff is because the Thunderbird's going to be moving a little quick, so the Jersey Devil's going to have to learn to either keep up with it or have enough intelligence to evade it the correct
I don't think
way.
it has to follow. It's one of those things where the Thunderbird can only hurt it. It can't call down lightning, so which would be awesome if it could.
It'd be so
sick.
Well,
it's not
It'd be so
lightning,
sick.
It's thunder.
But in order to hurt the Jersey Devil, it's going to have to coming in fast or not. The Jersey Devil has enough to survive whatever it's going to hit it with and also hit it back. So speed doesn't really, affect it. All right. Then I think we all sort of agree that in terms of the hierarchy, this is going to be, I don't know what we would call the thing right below the top dog. Point is, second in the totem pole, second chain. Thunderbird is close to being high ranking. And I also want to remind you guys, remember when we brought up the Jersey Devil and Brendon said, I think it was Brendon, he said, it's going to be a while till this thing gets dethroned. And I said I had something in mind.
Yeah.
This is not it.
Oh, boy.
What is it? Well, stay tuned. We might find out. And now our last category, fellas, after hearing all the information, all the stories, all the encounters, all the tales, and learning of its culture, fellas, do you think at the end of the day, could the Thunderbird be real in our world?
I'm going to bring this up now, but I completely forgot to ask you the question. It was locked. It was loaded. What do you think makes the noise?
Yes. It briefly talked about it before in the last sentence of the second case file, but it said or sort of implied that the noise is the force of which it's swinging its wings, like the updraft is sort of colliding with like the wind, and it's, when like tornadoes and twisters start to form, they make this terrible like whooshing thunderous sort of swirling noise, something along with that, which is why I normally wouldn't give any importance to the power of the wings, but in this case it does apply. And with that being said, do you think it's real? Sorry, we're hopping all over the place.
Yeah, a little bit. We're active this episode. It's better than nothing.
Yeah.
Do I think it's real? That's really hard to say.
Do you want me to go?
I do believe in dinosaurs, so I'm going to say it's real.
Yes, he does genuinely believe in dinosaurs.
I do. Wheel dinosaur.
I think it holds some merit. So then I'm just going to say maybe. Because...
How about this? I'm going to say my opinion, and then I'll let you influence whether or not you think it's real or not. So me personally, I think that it could be real, but the reason why being the consistency across all Native American culture, from tribes that should not have had any form of contact, having the same depictions, I think that's worth pointing out. Additionally, you have the story of the town of South Greensburg, that's what it's called, where they all reported a massive bird with this thunderclap of a wing flap. And I can't form a sentence properly, but you get the idea that I think there's enough information that's compiled here with a cool enough monster that I think it comes together enough for me to say I think it's real. But, who knows? Maybe you don't, maybe Brendon doesn't, but at the very least, I think it could be real.
Like, I want to believe that it's real. I really do, because I think the theories that were proposed, and I even try to back them up a little bit, saying like, oh, this could be this could be that. You know what? I'm just gonna say I think it might be real. I think it could be real.
my follow-up question was going to be, what makes you think it's not real?
What makes me think that it's not real? Well, I mean, just the sheer size of it, man.
So
like when you said in the beginning 70 feet, I was like, holy shit. Like I said, I don't even know how big 70 feet is, just like in my head. Like you had to give me the 2 bus examples.
Whales generally are 80 to 100 feet.
Holy
Yes. So things that big definitely exist. And also, like I said, the Thunderbird, 70 feet is a generalization. So it could be 70 feet, it could be 40. But the general idea is it's in that ballpark.
Hey, you know what? I think it might be real.
Yeah, let's go.
great to hear.
Convince him. We're not going to bring up the fact that animals that big need to have enough oxygen to exist. But that's just a theory.
Well, even then, still, it still sort of exists. Or it could. It doesn't necessarily disprove it.
Isn't there a theory, though, about that? Where, like, if an animal has enough room to grow, it will?
Enough oxygen or what?
Well, no, because I swear somewhere I heard there was a theory where if an animal has enough room to grow, it will. I gotta
Funny
look
enough,
this
that's
up.
actually
I don't-
something
'cause
else.
I swear I heard
But-
that somewhere.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. So we're not going to be able to dwell on it too much.
Shucks.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to our episode on the Thunderbird. I can't really speak for everyone else, but I really enjoyed researching this one. This was one of the first cryptids I've researched and was like, oh my god, I'm actually having fun. That's not to say that the other cryptids I've researched were not good, but it's wild. Oh, I also forgot to mention the pop culture appearances. So, funny enough, Zapdos is actually, the Pokemon Zapdos is inspired by the Thunderbird.
That's really cool. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's actually really dope. Definitely cool pop culture reference.
Yeah, think about that next time. Thank you for listening to this episode. Please come back next time when we tackle the Enfield Horror. See you later. Bye, guys.